Basketball.
It's time to strap in and get ready. The Insight NBA team is in the arena, bringing you the ultimate play-by-play on who's hot and who's not to help you win your leagues and dominate your mates. You're now hooping with your hosts, Matty G, Skitty, and Malley for the Insight NBA show.
G'day everyone and welcome to the Kevin Hoyter Appreciation Society, also known as Two Malleys. Malley, absolutely another great day today. Here's a guy who I'm going to put on my ad list for later. Spoiler alert there, Kevin Hoyter. But this is the Week 8 preview in a way and must ads. And mate, this is for many a very frustrating time with the fantasy. So the fantasy calendar.
Yeah, a lot of guys not playing today, so it would have been really upsetting in a lot of people's final game of the round. But it's a little bit, there's not really a perfect saying for it. This one's rubbish, but I was going to say one man's trash is another man's treasure. You know, if you where your guys fall down, they can come through and have a win. So for everyone who was upset today, there'd be another person who's stoked. So it probably all balances out.
100%. And I know like there's guys in like we mentioned guys like Kevin Herter. There's other guys who've come back and played one game. We're going to get to those ads a little bit later on. It's weird because let's be honest, this is a little bit of like honestly the Week 8 preview show. Now it depends on what league because there's guys messaging into Fantrax league literally a minute ago. Malley, you're in that one in one of the Insight Fantrax leagues, and there's still guys going like, does this run round over 2 weeks? Because that's what's happening in Yahoo. So if you play across platforms, Yahoo Week 7 is over 2 weeks. So we're about to enter Week 8 for ESPN and Fantrax, but we're still in Week 7. So this is why we gave the advice last week, Malley. Do not burn your ads early. You really need to know your settings above all else.
I don't think I'm in any leagues where this round carries over for another week.
Because you don't do bloody Yahoo. If you're not in Yahoo leagues, that's the thing.
So I mean, every one of my leagues just cracks on and it's just a regular round, which is crap. But the Locked On Fantasy Basketball League they've got it sorted. They're doing the next 2 weeks combined. So yeah.
Yep. So this is your Week 8. So your Week 7 is a little bit discombobulate in that way for some. If you started your week a little bit late, so those ones who drafted late rounds, you may actually have only been starting your week last week and this week. So it then bumps into a whole different thing as well. But basically speaking, this right now, if you had your 4 or your 5 ads in your Yahoo leagues, you got the same amount of ads. So we gave the advice last week. I was a very big proponent of please do not add and blow your wad at once. You know, it's not like it's like you go over to Thailand on your first backpackers holiday and like, let's go. And then you can't feel yourself for the next couple of days because you blow yourself out on the first night. It's exactly how it is in party season. Let's Vegas, baby, Vegas. And then you're there with no chips left in the table in the last one. Malley, as a streaming expert, you just like to just pace yourself, especially. And now, especially with limited games, we're blowing all of the ads we can if we're in Yahoo this second week of the schedule.
Definitely. And I just think, I mean, realistically, I've done the same in my ESPN leagues because there's a few teams that are going to play a couple of times at the start of this week. So I've had to already use 2 as soon as they rolled over today. I picked up 3 guys across different leagues, just blew my pick straight away. I got Cole Anthony in one. I got, who we might talk about later. I got Olynyk in another. And I got Goga, who was still in a round. Someone had dropped him and I picked him up. Yep. So after his big game today.
But that's a very fair ad, though. This is the thing. People would have dropped Goga before we knew about Franz Wagner's injury, and Franz is going to be out for a disproportionate amount of time right now. So we could quite easily say that, okay, cool. Goga's blown up today, had an absolute massive one. There's some other guys we're going to talk about around those fringes who can be a bit of a beneficiary, especially in deeper leagues. But like we said with those ads, and you said, Malley, let's have a look at the schedule this week. Monday only has 1 game being played. And you can see that it is just all bloody green for this week for streaming options. So the key ads, when we say must ads, we're going to give you some strategic ones later. We've got 1 game, 2 games respectively on Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 games Thursday, 8 games. Geez, it's a heavy day when you've got 8 games. on your Friday,
definitely.
and then 7 on your and then 7 on your Sunday, and jammed in the middle then is another 2-dayer with the NBA Cup, and then we've got some time off after that as well.
Yeah, it's a funny old week because I texted you early this morning and said it's going to be trash for picking guys up, and then I stopped and thought about it for a minute. I'm like, well, you could look at it nearly the opposite way and say it's an excellent week for picking up guys because, there's guys that, especially in these deeper leagues, you're definitely going to get a run from, or at least getting their stats on the board, even though they might be a little bit thin, will help you, especially if your opponent doesn't get their first game until Wednesday and you've streamed in 3 flogs and you've got, even if you can get up 20 points, 10 rebounds, a few assists and steals, that'd be great. And that's kind of what I've looked to do across a couple of my leagues. And, like you talked before, obviously, because it's something that you really need to be considerate of depending on what leagues you're in, whether you're in your second week of this round, whether you're just doing 1 week of this round, whether you're about to start your first of 2 weeks in this round. Realistically, besides the fact that it impacts your streaming, everything else doesn't really matter. Like, your opponent is playing by the same rules as you, and there's so much chat around it, and I kind of don't get it. Unfortunate if you weren't paying attention and you didn't look at the dates for the round on your schedule calendar in your specific league, which you can do across all leagues. Correct. And you go, oh damn, I really needed to hold some for the next week. But other than that, they're playing jack games this week, you're playing jack games, and like every other round, they might get lucky and get a few up over you. But it's probably, in some ways, this week's pretty good because you can't just bludgeon people. I like these weeks where either everyone's playing and then you're like, great, it's just going to be a real test of my team versus them, or these lower weeks where you're like, okay, this week's really going to be a test of the clever moves I can do early on before those 7 and 8 game slates in this early part of the week or round.
And this comes to what I like to call the Royce O'Neal theory. So this is my boy Royce O'Neal. He is coming off a back-to-back for the Phoenix Suns. And we would argue that Royce O'Neal really should have been a must-add for the last couple of games. So if he wasn't rostered, which he wasn't in many leagues, fair enough. You don't really think to your Royce O'Neal is that sexy ad option that I want to must-have. So you might go in thinking this week that you want to add Royce O'Neal. And fair, you should. Now, Kevin Durant might be back in the back of week 8. So my advice is this. If Kevin Durant rests again, what are we doing? Bring in Royce O'Neal. The problem with this, though, is that they play their next 2 games on Friday and Sunday. And this is the Phoenix Suns thing. So straight away, Friday and Sunday, they're the 2 days that you've got the heaviest days of games. Not that 8 and 7 games is respectively, I think is the right word I'm looking for. It's like the game where you play, like, name that basketball player that wears a headband, and I've got to guess it. It's like, name the English word.
The socks guy, you know him, socks man.
He wears socks, like different colors sometimes. But these guys don't play again until Friday and Sunday. So we're not obviously going out to add Royce O'Neal, because what the tactical pivot is we want to target guys who are available on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to start the week off. And then we can get word on Kevin Durant, and come Thursday or comfortable on Wednesday. Again, when the pickings are really slim come 3 games on your Thursday, you might want to outsmart your opponent and get those 2 games back-end value for the course of the week. And there's only a couple teams with final value. At the end of the week, looking down the schedule, you've got the Indiana Pacers, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Phoenix Suns, against 2 shithouse opponents, by the way. So they're must-adds because they play against the Jazz and the Trailblazers. The Trailblazers also play too, mentioning them. The Spurs and the Washington Wizards are the only 2 teams that play on those heavy day games. So we can get there because there is absolutely no back-to-backs this week as well, Malley, which really makes streaming just a hell of a lot of fun.
Definitely. And I wasn't a Royce O'Neal owner, but I picked up Plumlee for the back-to-back over the weekend because rebounds was a close category for me, and ended up getting 15 rebounds, probably 6 points, but 5 blocks. And he's just not a guy worth holding to the end of the week for 2 reasons. 1, that's too far in the future for me to worry about. 2, 100%. Nurk might be back. And 3, I think I said 2. 3, they're really heavy days. So you've just got to move on from a guy like that. There's no point holding him just because there's too much going against him. So that was the one I dropped and was surprised to see Cole Anthony was on there after putting up near 30 minutes today. And his window's looking beautiful at the moment while Parlo's not back. And obviously Wagner's out.
Exactly. So this is the one we want to pay attention to, the guys who have 1 games, because everyone in the NBA plays 2 games this week, possibly 3 games for the Knickerbockers. But we're looking at definitely 1 game weeks here for the Nets, the Hornets, the Bulls, the Cavs, the Nuggets, the Pistons, the Clips, the Heat, the 76ers, the Kings, and the Jazz. So let's just be conscious of that. And some of these guys, like you said, Melly, don't play until later in the week. Like a good case in point here is that we've got teams like playing their 2 games for the week. They might play their first game on Tuesday, like the Milwaukee Bucks, and that is their only other game for the course of the week. So we're looking at guys to get out their first game for the run of the week, and then that is pretty much it. And the teams like the Miami Heat, we don't want to use these positions and play them. Miami Bucks also only play 1 game this week as well. By the way, I left them off there, but they play 1. We've got guys like the Houston Rockets who don't play their first game until Wednesday. The only game for the Mavericks, for example, is on Tuesday. So we've got these 1 game weeks here, and we can just pretty much let these go by the wayside in many ways.
So pop that screen back up again with the 1 gamers. And I mean, really what we should talk about here, if you can find it again.
I can.
What we should talk about here is the guys who are on these teams that you probably should be holding this week. Especially if in a week where, as I said, you can get off to a hot start with the maybe like an Orlando player, you might get a Toronto player. So someone for the Nets, I'd definitely be dropping. Somebody would have to go like Williams. He's probably gone. Not Williams. Isaiah Williams. He'd be gone. For the Hornets, you'd probably dropping. Well, it's hard to tell with them because it's hard to tell what's going to happen with their bigs rotation. But Moose is probably the guy who needs to get the can there. I think his time's done, so there's no point holding him. Who else have we got on that list?
We've got teams in here like the Atlanta Hawks only play 1, the Dallas Mavericks, the Houston Rockets, the Warriors. So like the Warriors, their rotation has all gone to hell. Kevin Looney pick up 1 game, Trace Jackson Davis. If we've got him, we don't hold him. We can't bring him in. We get rid of him. The Milwaukee Bucks, maybe we bring them early. The Oklahoma City Thunder and the Orlando Magic as well.
Yeah, so there goes Gary Trent. There's a guy who you might have been holding on to, so he's probably gone. There goes Pajensky. He's gone. No point holding him. So there's like so many guys in that little group there that you're like, another guy, you said the 76ers, is probably Kelly Oubre, who got injured in like the last 20 seconds of the game today. So again, you could, in one sense, you could go, well, that's good. He's got heaps of time to heal. But in another sense, you're like, well, is he really a valuable player on your team, depending on the depth of your team? I picked him up in a 12-man, so he's gone for me. I'm definitely not holding on to him for the start of the 100%. Week at all.
No, we're getting those guys moving. And you also were talking about this before. You said you'd hold back onto it for a little bit later. And you said with some must-adds. So both of us have brought to the table about 10 ads before we get to some fun to finish the show. But these are your must-adds. Take us through some of these guys. Take us through your first list here.
Kevin Huerter, he might be your guy. I'm a little bit worried.
He's actually my guy. I added him onto your list. He's because I mentioned him at the top of the show. I thought I'd just list him at the top and then just get him off the list.
Yeah, so you can talk on him, but Kelly Olynyk, he had a great game today. I think you've got Kelly Olynyk there, but he might be nearly as good as Kelly Olynyk if he plays hard. But yeah, he's a guy who's probably his minutes aren't really there. But to start the week off this week, even if he gets 20 minutes, that's great value from a guy who can pad stats really nicely. Precious, as long as you don't care about starting your week off to a good start with your free throw percentage, he's an awesome pickup. I said Campaign. It seems like he'll be back again in these deep leagues, your 16s, 18s, 20s, and beyonds. I think he's a great pickup. Get a few assists, get some steals. His percentages are good. So hard to watch his shot with that left hand.
Oh, yeah.
It kind of looks like his shot putting. It's ugly, but it seems to go in. You got Dort there who, as you mentioned to me, has been relatively consistent throughout the year. But again, his time at the moment with them having a game within that first 3 days of the week where things are really quiet. Torian Prince as well. Things up and down in Milwaukee. You've obviously got Chris Middleton come back today, so that puts a little bit of a hamper on him. But he's still a guy who's going to give you value. And he's also a guy for that very reason that you're not going to hold on to for more than the game. So you're happy with whatever you get from him, and then you just palm him back off again.
Yeah, and there's a lot of guys going around who are like this where we just use them, especially in week 8, because it is such a low game schedule that we're looking for things like this. So we start looking at guys like, for me, I'm looking long-term and also short-term at guys who I can pick up. And I'm a bit of a focus here on some guys who are slipping under the radars with this one and the ways we can get through the cracks. Guys are returning from injury recently. I love an injury return guy, Chris Middleton. I even saw him on the wire the other day, the day before his return. And I was like, geez, I'm just going to add mids and see where that goes. And that was successful. And that's what these value guys do. Andrew Nemhard getting minutes again and ramping back up. And I like this for him. And I think Indiana really needs him with what they've been doing in their offense lately and in their defense a little bit. Look, Nemhard has kind of become a pressure cooker guy for them. And we know that these are the guys that they can thrive off, especially when guys like Halliburton haven't been carrying the first round load that obviously every single owner in history who took him in fantasy this year wanted. He just hasn't been that guy so far this year. Gary Trent Jr. was a guy that we liked outside the top 100 to be giving us threes and steals. And like you said, we can pick him up during the course of the week for that game and then drop him back off at the car park. But he is starting to ramp up and play very, very well. In fact, he's starting to put together a nice little run, Gary Trent Jr. So we're looking at him to long term. So if we can, we pick him and hold him. I've also been impressed with what Julian Strother's doing right now with Jamal Murray being out for the Denver Nuggets. He is starting to put together a really nice little run, and this is exactly what the Denver Nuggets need. I mean, not that we would ever sell high on a guy like Jokic, because that just seems absolutely stupid to say, but this is where he is playing otherworldly, elitely off the planet, and the team is still not carrying them. They got a massive win today, and in 21 minutes, not because it just necessarily was a blowout. And Malley, that's where for me it's not blowout dependent. Like, it's not a mutually exclusive relationship that Julian Strother is getting 21 minutes in a game. In fact, they rested him now because Watson, Pickett, Tyson, DeAndre Jordan, Alexander, and Zeke Naji and Hall were even rolled out there. So this guy was the first off the bench. He played 21 minutes, 13 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 from 6. He's not going to be that good all the time, but the 3 from 4, he's there to spread the floor. I loved what Strother was doing in the preseason, and we did have the conversation. I think, Malley, my first hot take before I come back to it, before I'm just going to touch on Robert Williams and Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith is starting to put together some really good minutes. Chicago starting not to look as great. This means that the minutes that they could search for something, it could be coming through with Jalen Smith. We look for sticks in deeper leagues. And Robert Williams, he's been in concussion protocols for a long time. Portland's playing towards the back end of the week. And so with those 2 Portland games, if we can pick up Robert Williams and get him in our and make some things for rebounds and blocks later in the week, that's exactly what Time Lord does. And we saw his value with DeAndre Ayton in the team. Klingen's still out. So there's a nice little window right there for Robert Williams. But my first thing is this, Malley. We're going to have a bit of a chat of 2 things each. My first one was this. Are there any guys, I thought preseason narratives and preseason upside guys, I'm thinking, my first question is this. What are your favorite top 100, outside the top 100 guys who have come good on the season? Or is there also anyone who we've forgotten about the hype and is under the radar for you still? For instance, mine is Julian Strother. We're all like, what's happening with Christian Brown in the preseason? He looked woeful. Strother was the guy who was just obliterating teams and just their guy. Everyone's like, is Brown going to be good? He slipped in drafts, and he's been a top 70 player on the season. Brilliant. Strother is showing some form. We could get something. What other guys from the preseason fit that mold for you?
Probably not really the preseason. I guess he did do things. I'm just more giving you this one because I know you'll love for me to say it, because I guess it's a bit of a mark of defeat. No, not Josh Hart. I'll give you Josh Hart. Is Norm Powell. I forgot about him over the last few weeks, and he's come back and putting up 30-point games again. Harden out today. I'm assuming he'll be back pretty quickly, but yeah, he's a guy who at least if we're talking about people who've dropped off our radars, he was someone I wasn't thinking about. And then he all of a sudden exploded back onto the screen again. I was like, oh, yeah, here he goes. I'm still stuck up on you saying that DeAndre Jordan got some minutes today.
DeAndre Jordan, yeah. Yeah, this is what I mean. Like, the Hawks are playing incredibly well lately. Like, they've been one of those teams that are really, it just goes to show that what we've, like, our fantasy wet dreams and basketball wet dreams, we're like, you know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see just Trae Young with a bunch of just really good defenders and lanky guys just play basketball. Just let him go out there and see what happens. And that's exactly what's been happening lately. And it's been amazing.
Another pickup that I figured today too in that particular game was how reliant they are on Jalen, Johnson, just to put to someone who's been able to pass. Like you can kind of see the gaping hole. I know they were also missing Bogdanovic today too, so you could have to put a little bit of that on him. But he's nowhere near as important as Jalen Johnson is, and the wheels really fell off without him today.
But also, this is the thing: we didn't have a bad Larry Nance Jr. game, and like the fact that if anyone picked him up, that was great. 16 points, 4, 3, and 2 for Nance. He does really well. It was the fact that we actually had do we have an average? Look, we had Ricochet wasn't able to fill those minutes. He's been good. I think he's also one of the guys that I liked outside that top 100 that was showing some flashes. I think a lot of the rookies are flashing in there. Guys like Josh Hart have been absolutely insane. Like these guys are eclipsing value. But for me, it's guys like Julian Strother that we need to pay attention to the narratives of the guys who fall off the radar. Let's just not forget them so quickly in our need. Like that's why I'm saying I like to put guys on my watch list, and I know it's not easily done, but I'm going to be out there and be an advocate for put dudes on your watch list, on your Yahoo, on your ESPN, on whatever app you can get, like your Fantrax that have it. Just keep your eyes on guys that you liked in the preseason, or maybe that you've dropped and not right now, like the Gary Trent Juniors of the world. And just to keep on checking in so they don't go to someone else. And you can check your players, check your watch list guys, just to see how they're tracking, because maybe it's time to make a move back to them and pivot.
And it's really hard with someone like Larry Nance because he falls off the radar completely, even on his own team, because he's basically a DC and do not play coach's decision, and then he goes into the starting lineup with 2 injuries. Like it's he's rides a wild one, and he's a great fantasy producer. So he's not like someone who goes in there and you're like, cool, thanks for filling in the space. He actually puts up good stats. So if anyone picked him up today, your finger is well on the pulse. Watch out for whoever that is in your league, because they are a focused man or woman.
That would be the smartest lady or the smartest man in your league. If they're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get Larry Nance Jr. That being said, though, he has always been dependable off the bench. But when you have guys like a Kongwu and DeAndre Hunter, who's been getting a bulk of those minutes, you would expect maybe with Johnson out, maybe DeAndre Hunter to have started. And he didn't. He came off the bench and he still played his 25 minutes. Funnily enough, he played 3 seconds more than Larry Nance Jr. That's how many Larry Nance Jr. minutes we got today.
Yeah, and again, you've got to be a sicko to really be able to pay attention to something like that and realize that it only takes one of those starting lineup guys from what's his face, Larry Nance, to basically go from nothing to playing near starters minutes. So yeah, figure that one out. The only other one that I'm stuck on that you mentioned probably about 10 minutes ago now, that's just been rattling around in my brain, is Chris Middleton. And I mean, the pickup of him is completely reliant on your IR spots. If you've got 2, if you're lucky enough to be in a league like I know you and I are, where you get 2 of those, and you don't have if you don't have a Paolo and you don't have a Zion or someone who's just taking those spots up, he would be great, because per minute he's an awesome producer, but 100%. He's just going to sit so many games through caution or through tweaks that you just want him there, that you can plug and play. You put him on, you get the stats that you got today for a guy who hasn't played at all this season, to just go out
20
there
minutes,
and do that.
11, 2, and 6. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And his percentages were crap, and he'll be better. And he'll be better percentage-wise as well. Like he's 3 from 8 from the field, 1 from 3 from deep, but perfect from the line, which is what he does. But he'll get better with his efficiency because that's what he does in time.
And then I'm in a league where there's no IR spots, and realistically, you can't touch a guy like that because you know what's going to happen. You know that he's going to play 1, and then he's going to miss 2, and you're in a position there where you've basically got a guy who has to put up 3 games worth of statistics in one gap to be any sort of worthy of being on your team. And I don't care how deep a competition you're in, that's just not going to work. So
I've been playing a dangerous game with Al Horford in ball page, and that says just no back-to-backs. I think we've had 2 Celtics back-to-backs in the last week, and we're in another competition. I decided to do the handcuffing game where I took Horford and Porzingis and I interchanged them in the IL just to do a bit of a cheeky, like, I know one of you guys ain't going to be playing tonight, or if you're both playing, you're both resting the next night, and I can move them straight down into IL and make an ad where I need to pivot for the next game, because
that's one up you for that. I was doing the 3-way rotation, and it was working beautifully between Trey Murphy, Vassell,
Zion,
and Bogdanovic. So I was 3 guys playing the same position, all shooting guards, small forwards. Then I was just in ESPN, just rolling. 1 goes in, 1 moves up again, 1 goes out, and then it was just. I think it lasted 2 weeks. Obviously, Trey's now back to playing back-to-backs and playing like 40 minutes. But it might work a little bit longer for Vassell and Bogdanovic for me. So yeah.
I thought you were a sicko when you were starting that off with like, I had DeJounte Murray, Trey, and Zion at one time. You're just trying to rotate through your Pelicans because which is exactly what they're doing in real life. I'm like, you're a sicko.
Yeah, I did the triumvirate. That's the golden triumvirate. If you can get 3 guys from the same team that you can foresee injuries coming up, that you never drop one because one of them's going to always be injured, you're a legend.
Then I thought you were going to pivot and you were going to go like, you know what I did, Matty? I picked up Nick Richards and Mark Williams at the same time because they were both sitting there. And I'm just cycling through them with Musa Diabate just to see who gets the most minutes for a night. And I was like, that's the kind of sick that you are for fantasy.
See, my level is 3 guys playing the same position but for different teams, and then you gave a scenario of 3 guys who play for the same team but different positions. But that Charlotte one is whatever's above the golden triumvirate, the platinum triumvirate, when it's 3 guys who play the exact same position for the same team,
and they're never going to play on the same night that many minutes. Yeah. And Diabate is the handcuff to both of them. Like, Musa, we're just going to roll you out there. You just go out there. But what about Nick and Mark? Look, it's fine. Mark's playing 10 minutes, mate. You'll just go out. And Nick Richards then was out, and Mark Williams was in for his 10 minutes. And per game monster that he has absolutely been. Look, make sure, we're talking about monsters, by the way, if you want your monster discounts, you've got to make sure that you're using our promo code IFS15 on all your gear for the standard squeeze. They have your 4-in-1s, your travelers. It's Christmas season. It's just around the corner. Before you get absolutely pummeled with orders, make sure you get it shipped to your house now. They've got great apparel. Check out their link down below in the description. And if you haven't yet, make sure you get onto our Patreon with exclusive content for all things Patreon. The link for that is downstairs. Mate, we said 2 things before we go. Give us one of your things before we head off and get out of here for week 8. And we come back later in the week with our buy low and our sell high shows. It's going to be fun later in the week, but what's 2 of your little interesting notes that you've said? Like, come up with a couple of fun things. What's something that you've interested with?
I think the first thing that I've kind of stated on, but I just want to double down on, is the fact that you can't hold these guys that are going to play late in the week. You've got to get rid of your Plumleys. You've got to get rid of your Royce O'Neals. You need to pick up these guys who have been sitting on the waivers for ages, like Achille Olynyk, who's about to have great value at the start of this week, who's probably been sitting on the waiver wire for ages, not being picked up, because why would you? He's not good enough to hold. And now you're going to reap the rewards and then basically drop him probably Wednesday or Thursday past when they're kind of used by dailies before you get to that 7 and 8 game slate. So I think that's my first one, that you just really got to pay attention to that and make sure you're being smart about those, especially in a week where playing one guy, one game could be the difference maker. a lot of the time that really won't matter because all your guys are playing, 3, 4, 5 games in the round. If you're in one of these leagues where it's only this week and not joint with the week that's gone or the week that will come, that's awesome for you. Like it is a week of bludgeoning. The second
I was
thing
looking
is
just to prove your point. I waited to do this in a league until I was on with you live because I like to do stuff with you live. I picked up Gabe Vincent today, thinking that I needed some steals. He came through for me. I was like, I just need some steals to balance this up a little bit. I'm looking good there, and the man's been averaging in his last 5 was 1, 2, 3, 2, and 3 again today. So that paid out for me. Goodbye, Gabe. Hello, Kelly Olynyk.
Yeah, good.
Wait, Jesus.
In and out.
There you go.
It's easy as that.
Done. Easy as that.
Happy days.
Done. I was waiting to add him just for you.
My only other point is one little thing that I've noticed at the moment is things are quite dry on the waiver wire. And I think that's because a lot of these long-term injury guys have started to come back. And all these gamble guys that we took are just slowly returning to where they once came, back into the swamps of the waivers. And that means when you're going to try and pick these guys up, there's just no depth at the moment. And like even in the situation of Orlando, where you're like, oh, huge player, big usage, big minutes, takes a fall. Realistically, it's only that small window before Paolo comes back, and then it's kind of back to where it was. But you just look across the league at the moment, and we have people with little niggling injuries where you might be able to pick someone up for a day and do well. Like if you had, I don't know, a Kevin Porter today while Harden sat, good on you. Or, like if you had a Larry Nance today, because you're a power sicko and that you saw the writing on the wall for that one.
No, they will not start DeAndre Hunter. It's Larry Johnson. It's Larry Nance's time to shine, baby.
Yeah, and didn't he sparkle? But I think that's just something to note. I don't know if that helps anybody, but it's just something that I've noticed is there's just nothing around at the moment. The only thing I can put it down to is these big injuries that have taken ages to come back, like your Kelly Olynyk, like your Trays, like your who are some of the other guys you mentioned tonight? I mean, even Joel Embiid.
Yep. And then you've got the pick. Then you've got by committee as well. Then you've got the by committee guys as well. I was going to throw Anthony Black onto my list because I've always enjoyed a bit of Anthony Black, and it's not just because of the whole Anthony Black with Anthony Black and Grady Dick. They exchange jerseys, Black Dick, ha ha ha. Yeah. No, I've always liked his game, and we also saw the move away from that. And I mean, Caleb Houston getting out there and getting minutes, but guys like Tristan Da Silva, he's getting minutes out there. KCP still was shit. I mean, he's having one of those seasons where he's been good at times, but not so great. He's still, the great thing about him is that he can be fantasy friendly, but he's there as a defender. Like this is exactly what he does. And this is exactly what he did do today in Phoenix. And that's why they couldn't get that win. Like there was such a heavy push to Devin Booker, and KCP was like, oh, him? Nah, I've got him. But again, Anthony Black today, 25 minutes, 8, 3, 2, 1. The 2 blocks were surprising, but still 500 from the field. Now, he was 0 from 3 from deep. He makes one of those. All of a sudden, he's at 10 points a game. And in your deeper leagues, a guy getting 25 minutes for your 16-teamers and your 20-teamers, that is incredibly bloody valuable. Incredibly valuable.
So 2 teams that were really tragic to watch today was the Clippers and the Orlando Magic because without
their guard,
there was just no offense at all. They just pass the ball around. We're like, oh my God, none of us can shoot. What's happened here? And then Goga was like, am I the offensive threat? And he was today. But when Goga's your offensive threat, this is wild times.
And this is what happens when Jalen Green is like, wait, Fred's not here tonight? Please allow me to cook for 31 points. So this is the incredible thing that they are just so good across the board, the Houston Rockets, but they absolutely dominated them today. Big game for Zubac. I mean, love that for him, especially when they are rolling guys out there like Şengün, but also Steven Adams only got his 10 minutes a game. So they were rolling out a big body to throw up there against Zubac, but I've loved that. But the thing that I noticed was the Norm Powell experience, 1 from 8 from deep. He just could not get it on. But then again, if you're a real fantasy sicko, you would have been like, you know what? Kevin Porter Jr. might get the start, but I really think Bones Highland's going to have a great night tonight. I can just feel it in my bones that Highland is going to play well, because he goes for 22 points in 27 minutes the game was over, but this is the kind of thing in fantasy, unless these injuries are happening and we know exactly what to pick up, the rotations are going deeper. The massive blowout today. Like, can I just say, hat off to Mike Brown. I do not know what is going on in Sacramento, but I am watching them play up 30 points. I think it was like 30 points almost. And Mike Brown was like, you know what? I really want De'Aaron Fox to play a lot of basketball tonight. I really want De'Aaron Fox to get out there and play some more with Keegan Murray, because Keegan hasn't got it going, and he still never got it going. He only went 3 from 5. But they rolled out De'Aaron Fox for 30 minutes tonight after they had pulled all the other starters. And I was really surprised by that. I was absolutely miffed, because could have been some more Keon Ellis minutes, but nope, just roll them out.
I'm digressing a little bit, but I just wanted to say too, with that Sacramento game, it's always funny to look at the Sacramento box score, because you usually see that everyone's got 15, 20, 25 points, and then they lose by 20, and you're like, what? How did that happen? Like, all their starters are in well into the double digits. Then I honestly have to. Sometimes my my NBA app doesn't refresh, and so I always have to do a double check, because I look who they're playing, and a guy's got 20 here, and then another guy's got 13 here, and you start doing the add up, and you're like, oh yeah, they did get beaten because they played against a team where everyone got 11 points. Yep. Where unlike their team, where now that they've got Monk in the starting 5, it's really everybody can score in that lineup. So yeah. Anyway,
I'm and look, I was more impressed with the fact that in fact, like as I said at the top of the show, which is a great time to roll it up, Kevin Hoyter was absolutely incredible today. Like, in his 22 minutes, and again they pulled him early, 26, 5, 4, 1 steal and 1 block. The block was amazing. His active defense was incredible, and then he's gone down the other end, and you could just about to hear the roof absolutely lift off, and he's just rimmed, and he's just rattled in that 3 after the block shot. It was prime. But the big winner of today, can I just say how much the team in Sacramento absolutely loved Doug McDermott going 6 from 7 from deep. Like, it was the Doug McDermott 3-point clinic show today. It's like, look, after I finish playing my NBA career, I'm going to just open a shooting clinic. This is my advertisement for it right now. It was a deep cut, and shout out to Dougie McBuckets.
Yeah, he can have all the love today, because I think his days of getting much love are nearly over.
I still remember when his days of not getting much love in San Antonio and Indiana were around as well. Mate, thank you so much, Malley. You have a great week. Enjoy, and make sure you like and subscribe to all things Insight down below. We'll see you soon, everyone. Take care. Thanks for the listen. Make sure you do like and subscribe to all things here. We'll catch you soon. Bye.